Ladies and gentlemen, children of the interwebs out there, smashing into the nerd strong style cinephile. It's wee hours in the morning. I have seen Stargirl episode 2, which if you have the DC Universe streaming app, you have. If not, then you've got to wait another day to see it. But since I have, let us geek about it for a scant few minutes. Now the episode picks up just seconds after the pilot episode ended, with Pat showing up in the striped suit, the Iron Giant looking suit of armor, to provide backup for her, save her, rescue her from Brainwave, who she threw down with at the tail end of last week's episode and she barely got away from. And then from there, they go off, fly away, leave a clue for Brainwave to further look into, try to find out the identity of this new cosmic staff-wielding individual. But it leads to a moment where Pat and Courtney kind of talk a little bit more about the JSA and what happened to them and how he ended up in Blue Valley. We find out that, and I read on some message boards last week, some people were saying, well, of course, the Injustice Society didn't, I mean, they were taking out JSA members, but some of the more heavy hitters weren't there. But now we find out that they, Hawkman, Hawkgirl, were in fact killed, as well as some others that were mentioned that weren't seen, in the slaughter in the pilot episode. Some people were thinking, well, maybe they might still be around. But apparently, the entire JSA was wiped out, which leads to a problem later on, which we'll get into, which will be a recurring theme, I think, through this first season. But Pat and Courtney talk about the seriousness of just being a hero, being a member of the JSA, and Courtney is just all gung-ho because she thinks that she's living up to her father's name and getting justice for her father and justice for the JSA. More than anything, it's just justice for her father, who she thinks is Starman, which, who knows, the writers might be throwing a curveball with the actual origins of the character and make Starman her biological father. Remains to be seen. Meanwhile, on the villain side, Brainwave is still kind of mad on for whoever this cosmic staff-wielding individual is. He goes and visits the wizard and tries to, get him on board with, what they're doing, although Wizard is more than happy with his family and his suburban life. It's like, this series is definitely sort of like a look into what do you do as a villain when you win, because they won. They wiped out the JSA, and they've all just gone on to have these like suburbanite type of lives, where you have, crushers at the gym, which some of the scenes with him and Pat, if that's going to be a recurring thing with him in the gym and trying to get in shape with playing off a crusher, it's just going to be funny. But him, sports master owning the gym, and then the wizard being in politics, and then, Brainwave is a medical doctor. But they're just all going on to have these normal lives. Although they're planning something, we know it's Project New America, whatever that's going to be, whatever the end game is, that's it. So you have Courtney wanting to search for Brainwave, who she thinks could be at this open house. Brainwave wanting to search for Courtney, who he thinks can be at this open house, because he knows from the ID that Courtney dropped that was badly burned that the cosmic staff-wielding individual is, at least he knows she's a student at Blue Valley High School. At the open house scene where Courtney, Pat as well, Pat and Courtney both are searching for Brainwave, and they have Brainwave searching for Courtney, and just the way they were kind of doing that scene where they were just kind of like in the bleachers for this open house, parents' night type of thing, and Courtney was looking around, Pat's looking around, Brainwave was looking around, and they're just looking for each other, and they're just kind of barely glancing at each other. I think that was cool how they put that together, how they edited that together. So that was a fun scene. Brainwave eventually encounters Courtney. He says, "Hey, bring the staff by midnight, or I'm gonna kill your mom." Courtney tells Pat. Pat tells her to stay away, and she, of course, is not going to listen. But Pat goes to fight with Brainwave, gets his butt kicked. Courtney shows up in the costume that she fashioned earlier in the episode and takes him on, and eventually, by way of Pat helping, beats him, saves the day, leaves him catatonic, and just, by pure accident, leaves him catatonic to end the episode. So of course they have to take him out because he's a telepath and he's a telekinetic and he's a heavy hitter who has soloed some of the justice-ish, justice-named teams in the comics several times over the years. So it just, and his powers are kind of OP. It was like having like Ragman on Arrow that season when they did. It was just like, why is he here? Why do you not have him in his mystical rags that are bulletproof and have like tendrils like Venom and stuff solving all the problems? Like, why don't you have Brainwave, who's a telepath, who's a telekinetic? Just make everybody have a stroke, from like 50 yards. Like, it's comic books. I know it's like, why doesn't every superhero show up to every other superhero's fight and stuff like that in the comics? Because they're all in the same city. Suspension of disbelief. I know there's some things we're not supposed to dwell on thinking about them, but it is what it is. Courtney takes him down, and she's kind of wondering after the fact if what happens if he dies, that's going to be on her, and she's kind of dwelling on that. Pat tells her not to think about it, and then she's like, oh, hey, who's next? And then we see Icicle show up, we see where Grundy is, and we find out that the dude behind the cherry that her mother, Courtney's mother, is working at is in league with the Injustice Society. Interesting. And of course, Icicle vows to take down, this new cosmic staff wielding individual. And here's where we get into the issue with it. It was a cool episode. Still, just Courtney's attitude just kind of, it's a little bit much at this point in time. She's a little bit too eager. I'm still waiting for her to get knocked down a peg. I thought after Brainwave put smackdown on her a little bit, trying to turn her brain into jello, that she would have had that moment where she's like, oh, this is serious. No, she's still in that mode where she's not seeing the seriousness of it. It's just still a game to her, I think, where she's just trying to, she's not trying to do this for the right reasons. She thinks she is, and she thinks she's getting justice for her dad. So I'm wondering if it's going to come out to where she finally finds out that her dad is not Starman, and then she doesn't want to do it. She has to find some real motivation, real genuine motivation inside herself to want to continue to be Stargirl. The other thing is still, again, is how we're going to go from point A to point B with the Junior Justice Society of America. These kids, these just like loser, awkward, outcast kids are supposed to be like JSA 2.0. How? Why? Just why are they going to get involved? Where are they going to derive their powers? Are they going to have powers? They have to have powers. Like, it's just so many questions. Like, why bring them into this? It's this, like, I'm watching the show because it's a good show. It's, at first glance, it is totally not a CW series, even though it's on the CW. It's very much a DC Universe series. It's got a bunch of money, and you can see it in the effects, some of the cinematography, just the way they do things. It's just a step above what we're seeing on the CW, which I should have noted that last week in my review of the pilot. But I'm just waiting to see how we go from just the point A to the point B of these kids in their suits locking horns with the Injustice Society. Are we supposed to believe that maybe they're just out of practice because they won, however many years ago, and they've moved on to their suburban lives? Clearly they still have, their abilities. Brainwave still he has his. You see Wizard has his wand, and he still can, fire a charge through it and all that kind of stuff. Crusher is in shape, so of course Sportsmaster's to be doing his thing, which hopefully we see soon. Icicle's got the icy breath, he's still there. We see Grundy is locked up in their little, base and tail end of the episodes. So we just to believe that just age and just being out of practice is what's going to enable the Junior JSA to overcome this Injustice Society that took out the original bad, mother effing JSA. Like, I'm not there yet, and I don't see how they're gonna get there. But those are some of my scattered thoughts on it. What do you guys out there think? Let me know in the comments below. Follow me on social media. Stargirl. It's good so far. I'm liking it. I'm digging it. I like the costume, like the lead actress, like the villains. It's a good show, I think. Anyway, till then, let us geek.